6:32, and we're going to call the meeting to order. Our first speaker is Heather Davies, and she's going to talk to us about I believe it's the Housing Guarantee Act.
Yes, and I have Rashav Rout, if I said it right. I was saying it wrong earlier. I apologize. And can I share my screen?
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you, Deborah, announcing on at Saturday's breakfast that you that I was going to be speaking, and I was happy to do that. But I also have someone who is the campaign manager for this effort. And so I'm just going to say quickly why I think this is so exciting. First of all, my son has become good friends with Rishav and Dean Preston, and they've been working on this together.
Oh,
But I have been interested in affordable housing for some time and had worked on affordable housing for people with seniors, affordable housing for people with adults with developmental disabilities, and saw some of those projects through after those projects came to fruition after I left. But my sister-in-law is living in one, and my grandnephew is going to be moving into the other nearby. So they will both be in lifelong affordable housing. And so this is very exciting to me. I also like aspects of it that Rashad will get into about how some of this money can be spent on preserving affordable housing. And as I was collecting signatures at the Sunset Night Market, I was struck by the idea that this is also an opportunity for us to preserve affordable housing along our commercial corridors where we have vibrant small businesses with in buildings with mixed uses and affordable housing upstairs. So this is an avenue to do two things at once. And that's what I particularly am excited about. So if Rashav, if you would introduce yourself, and I can just kind of flip through this as we go.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Heather. Thanks for the intro. Thanks, Deborah, for having us on as well. Uh, uh, Again, my name is Rishav. I'm the campaign manager for this ballot measure, the Affordable Housing Guarantee Act. Hopefully, will be on the ballot this November. Yeah, happy to get into the details. And if I remember correctly, we have around 15 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and then I'll try to get through this in short in that time, so I'll have time for questions and stuff at the end. Yeah. So a little bit of context for this measure. In 2020, San Franciscans passed Prop I with 58% support. This was an additional transfer tax on the sales of properties over $10 million. And since then, it's generated more than $500 million in revenue. And the way that there was some weird legal issues that was written at the time. So it was a fund that went to the general fund and not explicitly towards any specific use. There was a Board of Supervisors resolution that went along with it that said like the intent of this is to go towards affordable housing. There's a pair measure with it called Prop K that was also intended to show the voter support for affordable housing. And expected to go towards that, and it has some of it's gone towards a lot of good stuff, including emergency rent relief during COVID, keeping people in their homes who'd lost their jobs and things like that. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. Like I mentioned, the funds from this measure from Prop I in 2020 has gone towards the general fund, and since then, like nearly half of the revenue has gone towards other purposes other than affordable housing and rent relief and the things that we wanted it to go towards. It's been used for like just filling the budget, different wherever the political winds may go with the mayor's office. It's been with our strong mayor system. They have way more control over what goes towards it. Meanwhile, rents are still unaffordable. Working families are being displaced. Rents are skyrocketing right now, and they've proposed repealing the tax entirely to try to spur development, or however you'd like to look at it from that angle, to cut taxes on people who sell buildings above $10 million. So recently there was a courts have settled a case in Southern California that established that voters can. I'm sorry, my cat has decided to. He knows whenever I'm talking. Sorry about that. To dedicate taxes directly towards affordable housing, to dedicate transfer tax stuff towards affordable housing. This was done with Measure ULA in Los Angeles, and then there was something similar in Santa Cruz. So this measure essentially restores voter intent. It's not a new tax. It's just dedicating existing money that we've already approved and dedicating it towards these things that we know are good: affordable housing, rent relief, eviction protection, things like that. It creates accountability and public reporting for this measure. So we're seeing how much money is being generated from the tax and how it's being spent. So it's not just like the way it currently is, where it goes to the general fund and the mayor can kind of use it for whatever. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So this tax was, like I said, was already passed in Prop I in 2020. It's mostly paid by luxury real estate sales there and mega mansions, pretty much. So you have like office towers, uh, in huge single family homes, and other luxury commercial real estate sales as well. Even like rent controlled buildings where they try to flip the building and try to increase evict tenants and renovate and increase rent, things like that. Have some details on the tax rates as well there. We don't need to go into too much of the details around that. Some important protections. There's no new tax on homeowners. It exempts residential construction for the first 5 years. Does not put like any burden on working families or small businesses, and it puts the burden on the biggest real estate transactions, the people that are fueling our crisis, usually large real estate companies and conglomerates that this would be taxing. And then you're asking like, what would we dedicate this money towards that hasn't already been dedicated to? Go towards affordable housing, like I've said, permanently affordable, not just this inclusionary where it's like only affordable for 20 years or something like that. Housing preservation and anti-displacement programs, rehabilitation of existing housing, tenant protection, community land trusts, homelessness prevention, all these things that'll keep our neighbors in their houses and keep San Francisco affordable. I think I saw a question in the chat, but I'll try to do the questions towards the end. Yeah. Why does this funding matter? San Francisco needs a stable funding source for affordable housing. We've had a recent state mandate to create 46,000 affordable housing units for low to moderate income. And we don't really have any real funding source for that. And they continue to cut fees and inclusionary and things like that that would provide some of this affordable housing. So we need like a true dedicated revenue stream for affordable housing. So this would be $100 to $200 million per year. Even though this does vary based on the market, it's still money that we would not otherwise have for affordable housing, and we need to combine all these different sources to meet the scale of the crisis where it's at. Yeah. And then some questions that we usually have. Will this hurt the city budget? No, it dedicates existing transfer tax revenue that was already intended towards this, that we've already passed in 2020, as well as the fact that the mayor and Supervisor Mahmoud have proposed repealing the tax as well. So there's a chance that like this money is either going towards affordable housing or it's going to be taken away. And will this stop development? No, affordable housing market developers alike say financing is the key barrier. This measure also exempts the first sale of residential construction for 5 years. So we're going to try to keep affordable housing continuing and growing. And it does have like these specific legal dedication of funds and spending requirements and public oversight that'll try to keep this funding exactly how it was meant to and avoid any legal hiccups or weird issues like happened in 2020.
So the next slide's about how to join the effort. Do you want to take the questions now?
Yes, yeah, I'm happy to take questions
Yep.
so
Please
far.
raise your hand and I'll call on you. I think the first one we'll take from chat was how do you define mega mansion?
Yes. Well, the way the tax is defined is essentially anything that's above $10 million. So if there's a mansion that's out there that's less than $10 million, we're not counting it. It's just based on that value that it's sold at.
Okay, and George, you're next. Go ahead and unmute. George, you're still muted.
Thank you. What is the current length of Measure I right now?
What do you mean by length?
How long is the tax?
I think right now, are you asking if it has like a sunset period or if it will?
When will it end? Yes.
Oh,
I-
right now it's indefinite. We want to have
I'm-
permanent.
So when do you want to cap it?
Well, right now, I
Sean-
guess sorry, is there?
I read somewhere that it was 35 years currently.
I think that might
As
be
of-
for the housing trust fund. I think this is going to be
Okay, thanks.
This is we want to create like a permanent source that won't be like to build like affordable housing at scale.
Why do you need such a long tax? Why can't you go back to the voters in say 15 to 20 years?
I guess it could. I guess right now we've already had issues where they're like different political forces are trying to get rid of the tax within 5 years, within 6 years. So from our perspective, it's about trying to keep it like preserve it for as long as possible whenever these like anti-tax forces will plan to remove it, like the mayor or their corporate donors who want to remove the tax regardless of how much affordable housing it funds.
Well, would it be fair to say this is a massive increase in taxes if you get 35 years?
Well, this is I'd say it's not an increase in tax because the tax already exists. It's just keeping it and dedicating
It is an increase in taxes because you're going to get a lot of extra years on it that you may not get.
I would like to add that I was at the Board of Supervisors meeting when Supervisor Melgore introduced an alternative approach that is now the Build Act that's now been put on pause, but she was proposing that it be put into the city charter. And so that was going to be made indefinite that way.
Yeah, but Supervisor Melgar, I don't take her seriously. I do take you guys seriously. So I'm very interested in what you think and what you're going to do. And I really want to know how much this is going to cost the public. The MOHCD is already broke, and I want to know it's great what you're doing, dedicating the tax, but it's also very important to know how long the tax is going to be because when you want to ask people for their money, they really need to know how much they're going to be spending.
I can also add something here. The estimated when I went to Cheyenne Chen's housing hearing last week on last Monday, and the estimated cost of building out the mandated affordable housing, which is the 46,000 units, is $11.9 billion. So that this is going to be one source of revenue that will keep the ship moving forward, but that need is virtually indefinite. Now, if the mayor were to add inclusion rather than reducing inclusion requirements for new construction of housing, that would help. But that's what I can add on that.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to Mary Eliza.
Yes, what is the deadline for collecting the signatures?
Yeah, I think the official hard deadline is July 6th. We're planning on having our like official turn in the week before June 30th.
And Lynette, this will be the last question, and then we'll go to our next speaker. Lynette, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Earlier you said mega mansions are going to be defined as $10 million. but what if it's a multi-family dwelling unit? If you're saying that anything 10 million and above is going to be considered a mega mansion, right? So,
I was saying it's transfer of anything $10 million or more. So I was saying mega mansions that are worth $10 million are included in that.
yes, are included, but actually what in reality, it'll be anyone who owns any apartment buildings or multi-unit dwelling unit. So I think that might turn some of the property owners off. I'm
Well,
just,
if it's new construction and it's being sold,
no,
it's exempt.
if it's new construction and being sold, it's exempt. Why is new construction? Then it's
New affordable housing for 5 years. So as Rashad was saying that this was a provision that was crafted to ensure there were not concerns from the mayor and city hall regarding thwarting the growth of housing, new housing in the city. And so if the tax was not applied to those sales within 5 years of construction, that would prevent this from being an additional obstacle for new housing.
right.
And
But
your question was like existing multifamily housing?
yes, anybody that owns existing multifamily housing, and if anything that sells for over 10 million, I think, you're going to have a lot of people who own these multi-dwelling units work against us.
So, but yeah,
I did have a couple little clarifications. The question came up about multifamily buildings that exist. And so rent control. Yeah. So the idea is if owners have a rent controlled building that exists and they want to sell it, that puts those rent controlled units into some vulnerability that they may not exist. So that is one reason why having the transfer tax is helpful, because the transfer tax actually will fund affordable housing for people who are displaced from either rent controlled or just generally affordable housing, to actually have the possibility of having future affordable housing to find where they could move to. So that's one justification. And as far as the term, I did mention it was $19 billion to build out that 46,000 plus units, and at an estimated cost, that's an estimated cost of 400,000 per unit. If you assume generously that they are creating $200 million in revenue to go into housing, that is actually 95 years. So if you're thinking about the expiration of a tax, it's 45,000, it's 95 years before it accomplishes this state measure. And apparently, I think we get these state mandates on a cycle of what, 8 years, is it?
7 years for Rena.
7 years? Yeah. That's all I
Okay.
have to add to the.
Okay, Glenn, you have your hand raised?
Okay,
Yes, I do. I wanted to ask, so the income for the affordable housing, was that $145,000 for a family of four? Is that what you're figuring it as?
No, that is the construction rate. So the income is, it's based on median income. And so there's very low, low, moderate, and then there's above median income. So median income this year is 200,000. So then it's apportioned at 25% of median. It is what they would be able to afford on rent. 25% of that income. Does that answer your question? I don't have the chart. If you go to Dahlia, you can see how it breaks down currently.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I say something about AMI?
Yes, please.
The problem here is it's based on 3 counties, not just San Francisco. It's based on San Mateo, very high, San Francisco, very high, Marin, even higher. So AMI here is inflated by the other two counties and makes it much higher. So anything to do with the city and AMI is essentially a joke because the average San Franciscan makes about $47,000 a year. According to AMI, you need to make a single person making 121,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Is eligible for affordable housing. So a family of four with I think 162,000 is eligible for AMI. And AMI has been suspect for a long time in this city. What is AMI? Is it really helping poor people or lower income people? And the answer is no. Because people making $130,000 a year can supersede someone making 90,000. So it's a very dicey thing in San Francisco using AMI as a measurement, which unfortunately that's what affordable housing does.
Okay, Deborah, you have two raised hands.
Yes, Eileen Boken is next.
Hi, my question is for Heather. Does this include small sites acquisition?
Yes, it does.
That
So
is very
there-
good news.
Yes, that's what I particularly liked about it because of the coexistence of these mixed use buildings in our corridors, and it can be to scale. Cheyenne spoke about this at some length a week ago Monday, and that was when Myrna and her seemed to have a girl power moment, and I realized something was going on with the Build Act, and then it disappeared. But she was promoting it because it's small size, small scale as well.
Steve Ward, you're next.
Yeah, I would like to ask Heather, you mentioned somewhat in your discussion about the fact that a multi-unit building that was sold with a rent-controlled units inside of it may be put at jeopardy. Can you expand on that a little bit?
My understanding is that there are protections for buildings over 2 units, but if there are existing housing in here in the Sunset, which I'm more familiar with, there's a lot of units that are just affordable. So maybe I misspoke by pointing towards specifically the affordable housing. There are no protections for affordable housing under the rezoning for buildings with less than 3 units. And I'm not sure how good the protections are for displacement of rent controlled units in larger buildings.
But I mean, why should the sale of what I wanted to know was why should the sale of the building jeopardize the rent controlled units?
Well, because of the rezoning, all the units along Judah, north south east west from the ocean to UCSF are rezoned to 8 stories with potentially 10 stories without having any affordable housing. So now there's that. That's a whole lot of housing, and that's not just in this location. It's throughout the Sunset and the Richmond and other locations. So those are places where people who don't have rent control are going to be subject to possible displacement if they tear down the building. Also, we're hearing stories now of folks on Geary Avenue and also in the Sunset, but Geary, the specifics were someone had a 3,200 2-bedroom house in a Geary apartment building, and they got 90 days to either vacate or sign a lease for $7,000 a month.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that
Right.
maybe wouldn't be, that's not something we can solve with a transfer tax, but the transfer tax would potentially be a discouragement to flipping and demolishing
Right.
existing.
I understand how the transfer tax would act as a disincentive to flipping a building. What I guess I did not understand was how the sale of a building would jeopardize the rent control unit. You know what I mean? That I don't understand.
If
And
they
because
were,
my understanding was is that those rent control units stay with the building when it is transferred.
Absolutely.
right. So I may have misspoke, but
Okay.
it would be the buildings that are existing that have affordable housing, affordable rents compared to current market. Those are the ones that are more vulnerable.
So it's kind of a mixed. That's mixed. It's a mixed kind of concept because it may be an affordable housing unit, but is it a rent controlled unit, which is something I think of as being different, you know? So I guess that was what my confusion was about it. But I do see that the transfer tax aspect of it would be a disincentive for for flipping the buildings. It's such a terrible prospect. I mean, I've been out in the Sunset for over 35 years, and and a San Franciscan second generation, and just the prospect of them converting, for example, Judas Street into 10 and 8 and 10 story buildings is just very disheartening. It's very disheartening. That's all I can say about it.
And it's happening. And I'll tell you that I've gone to Zillow and I'm neatening up my analysis, but you can filter on what's been sold in the last 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. And it certainly looks like it's accelerating. And then the Chronicle pointed out that home buying by holding companies or non-owner occupants has accelerated by 37%, I think it was,
Oh,
in the last year or so. And when I go to Zillow and I can see where these are, they're targeting the corners. And that was the subject of Steve Sherrill's introduced 90-day laws, development impact fees on corner lots. Now, I don't know how many corner lots are upzoned in D2, but this is co-sponsored by Wong. So they're going to look to lower the impact fees to develop on the corner lots. And so if you take the actual corner and then one on either side, you pull it together and you can do the 6-story tower. So they're trying, and you can see that is the pattern of purchasing right now.
Yeah. It's just it's horrible.
George, you have your
Not
hand
what
up?
I'd like to see.
I'll just be brief, hopefully. Yeah, the corner lots are to be built much larger than interior lots. They're going to be, I believe, at least 5 stories high on a corner lot.
6.
Interior are going to be 4 stories high. I think what no one ever understood about the mayor's family plan and what the state did was everybody was so hung up on the height. They didn't understand what was really happening. There were 8 iterations of maps, but what they were
Yes.
really doing is figuring out a pattern of demolition throughout the city. So, yes, you can build, but they're not going to be building that high there's no need to. There's nobody that can afford to buy them. But it shows where you can demolish everything you buy. So, and that's been the big problem um, with demolition. And at the very end, Myrna Melgar did put in an amendment into the mayor's family housing law that said if a building had 3 or more units, not affordable units,
Market rate?
not market rate, what,
Rent control.
rent control,
Rent
thank
control.
you, rent control units, that building could not be demolished. So that's really the key on that one amendment. However, you're absolutely right about the Transfer Act. If it only had one affordable or not affordable,
Right.
one unit, it could be demolished. So that's my thought.
Next, I'd like to introduce Lori Brook, who ran for supervisor in District 2, who was grossly outspent because of billionaire PACs. So the most qualified person did not win that election, but I'm not biased.
Well, thank you for having me, and hello, fellow candidate Albert and JR. Good to see you again. I know it's been a while since we chatted, but so I'm just going to share some of my observations from my experience. Albert may have some parallel experiences. As you know, many of you know, I've been a neighborhood leader for longer than I want to admit. 30 years working on neighborhood issues, Cow Hollow, Neighborhoods United SF, Rescue SF. So running for supervisor became a natural extension of that work, but I didn't run for that reason. I mean, I wasn't looking for a political career. I ran because of the housing issues and what the decision that our supervisor, District 2, Stephen Sherrill, made to vote yes on those upzoning plans. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to let this guy get into office without a fair fight, because he was just going to walk right in. And I thought, you know what, he's going to have to explain to people why he did what he did. Now we know he showed up with some pretty strong opinions about build, baby build, and I think we need to build the housing, but we need to do it a lot more thoughtfully than the upzoning plan produces. So I did realize as I ran on the platform of being an independent voice at City Hall because I do feel that, for instance, my former opponent is not independent. I think he's pretty much, doing the bidding of those that don't, his donors and so on. And I think that resonated as I went through many living rooms over the course of 8 months. I think people really were hungry for independent voices that represent the interest of the existing communities. And I think that won't go away. I think that's still true and will continue to be true. So one of the things that became clear to me, and I think anyone else, is that I wasn't running against Stephen Sherrill. I was running against a very deep and wide political ecosystem. And very specifically, I ran against Daniel Lurie. That's what it became at the end of the day. Not only financially did he deeply fund Stephen's campaign because Stephen, is aligned with Daniel and doesn't really ever push back. And I'm not saying what Daniel's doing is right or wrong. It's just I think there should be a separation of power between the mayor and the supervisors. And it really does feel like Daniel Lurie bought 2 seats. And I think that's wrong. I think he should have not gotten involved, but he's learned that his money delivers. So, he's kind of San Francisco's new kingmaker. More importantly than the money, Daniel showed up at every single thing Stephen had. His kickoff, his Christmas party, every event. Daniel even created an event in District 2 where he brought all the city department heads out to Fort Mason so the public can, good idea, but I don't think he was planning on doing it on all 11 districts. So he was kind of using the government, his own department heads, to benefit a candidate. I mean, it was pretty overwhelming what was happening there. And of course, as JR, you're experiencing, and Albert, you did experience, there is such a world out there of the endorsement process, the donor networks, all these political organizations like the DCCC, all the things you have to go up against, that it's kind of performative. they already know who they're gonna choose, but
Yeah.
you still have to do it. You still got to play the game. Um, Another thing I experienced, and I think this is true in general, is the average voter is extremely busy. So the minutia that we all understand, they're not even paying attention to. And particularly this race was kind of interesting because everyone was holding out for the governor's race. So I'd ask, have you voted yet? They're like, nope. And so maybe, I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I had a longer runway to talk to people because they hadn't voted. Um, so that was kind of a unique experience well, I hadn't run before, but what I assume was a unique experience is people waited till the very end to vote. A lot of people did. And here's another big deal in District 2 and probably in other places is I really now know the power of incumbency and more specifically appointments. And the last 4 out of 5 supervisors in District 2 were appointed. The only one that wasn't was Mark Farrell. But Gavin, Michaela, Catherine Stephanie, and Stephen Sherrill all were appointed. They all had the benefit of incumbency, which is so much more than you realize until you're on the other side of it. All the supervisors endorse each other because they have their colleagues and they have to work together. I mean, for the most part, not everyone, but there's a general, of course you are. Sacramento endorses and so on. And so that really feels unfair. And I think it's something we should think about later to talk about that. San Francisco is one of the very, very few places where the mayor has that power to place his own agenda into the seats, as we starkly experienced this time. And I know, Albert, you did too. And I don't know what your situation is going to be out in D10, JR, but that's what it looked like for us. And I think we should consider something like most places where you have a caretaker that sits in the seat and then you have an election within 6 months. That's not a perfect solution, but it's far better than what we have just experienced right now. Just a couple more thoughts and then I'll finish up. The good news, even though, we're out there as the representing the neighborhoods, not part of the political infrastructure, is that the relationships matter. Our relationships really do matter. People trust us, that our authenticity, our track record really matters, and it's not forgotten. Just because we didn't win a race, it doesn't mean we might have lost the battle, but I don't know. I think we still stand a good chance of maybe winning the war. And there's such a good feeling in going into people's living room, coming from that position of, I really am you. I really do go to those hearings. I know what it feels like to not be listened to. And I do think that's one of the big things that is happening right now in our city, and why I ran, is that the city hall is shutting our voices out day by day. What was difficult, I will say that fundraising, of course, is always the big factor. I ended up raising almost 500,000, half of which comes from public financing. And I think that should be, and that has always been, about what you need to run a district race. That was considered, you pull in about 500,000, you should be able to do well. Well, not Daniel, well, yes, Daniel, Stephen had 3 independent expenditures, right? So he spent over $1 million, against little old me. And with that and Lurie's endorsement, I got 1 out of 3 votes, which I think is real. It tells a lot considering what I was up against. So I may have not won, but I really considered this, it was so important that I ran. I actually enjoyed it. I am so glad I ran. And I hope that those of us that are in the grassroots world don't stop running. We make a difference out there. We nibble around the edges, but then ultimately at the end of the day, I've had so many people come up to me and say, you ran a great race. I'm so glad your voice was out there. I think I made Stephen a better supervisor because he had to be, because I held him accountable. Now, I don't know what he's going to do. That I'm sure he feels pretty emboldened right now. We'll see how the second half is. But we really do make a difference in the long run. And I hope that my campaign inspires more people to run and stay engaged. And I'm certainly not done. I think they're going to rue the day that I didn't win, because I'm pretty dangerous when I'm out in the wild, and that's where I'm back now, out in the trenches. And they have seen that the way I can organize. And now I'm actually not just Lori from before. I'm Lori with a far deeper donor network, a far bigger reach, a far greater brand awareness. So they haven't heard the last of me. Thank you, though, for letting me share all that.
And does anyone have any questions for Lori?
First of all, Lori, thank you very much. You worked hard, and it would have been great if you had won, but as you said, you got 30% of the votes, and that's a really impressive number for someone who was running against someone with all the money that Steve and Cheryl had. What are your future plans?
Well, it's stay tuned. I am probably getting back into the statewide space, constitutional amendment type stuff. Some things are brewing, and I think it's really important that there's a constitutional level, a statewide level amendment on the housing and the way it's built, and what's being put together that they want me to participate in looks really good. So I will stay tuned. I'll keep you informed.
And Mary Eliza, you're next.
Yes.
And then I wanted to say something.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lori, for doing what you did. It's so important, like you said, to get our voices out there and be heard. People who don't even know what's going on need to be informed. And you did a fantastic job of doing that. And we look forward to working with you coming up in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciate that.
And Leanne, go ahead.
Hi, it's Leanne from Diamond Heights. You can't see me, but you can hear me. Lori, you now have accumulated name recognition. And I used to be on the DCC. The first time I ran, I lost, but the second and third time I won. So don't squander that name recognition. And welcome to the swamp.
Thank you. I think I should say.
And I don't see any other questions. So next we have Albert Chow.
Hi, everybody. And my dear partner in crime, Lori, how are you? Gosh, you want to talk about having a tough race. I would come in a lot closer than I did. I ended up third place. I think I got 4,200 votes versus Alan's 11,000 plus. And it turned out that a lot of my second rank votes all were Alan. So I think I gave him like 2,000 votes that just pushed him way over the top. Yeah, I think Lori and I had a lot of parallel experiences, basically because we had parallel candidates that were opposing us. Stephen Sherrill, part of the machine, part of the Daniel Lurie support group. And so was Alan. In the case of Alan, I thought I had a better chance just because I don't think he knew my neighborhood really at all. But I guess, Stephen too, he just moved in. But the thing was that if you did meet him, you would see that, and meet me, I think I would have stood out more as the guy that knew the nuts and bolts of the Sunset. Whereas Alan, he was seeking a job. And I hate to say it, but like as hard as we tried, we couldn't get over the money. We couldn't get over a very popular mayor that was able to not only pump the money in, but have like 70% approval rating and literally walk with Alan down the street, door knocking. And so extra celebrity star power next to Alan, whatever his deficiencies were outshined by having Mario Lurie at his side. So they were able to package Alan, very neatly and present it to the people. And I'm sharing parallels now. People are busy. Voters probably didn't make up their mind till the last day. And I think in Lori's case, it was a two-way race. It was just her and Stephen. In my case, it was a five-way race. And I think there's also a little of that feeling of wanting to vote for the winner. I think some people that are kind of lightly involved, they don't really look at the details, and they don't go to the forums. They don't really read the paper on everything we do and what we stand for, especially on the grassroots level, just because we don't have the biggest microphone. But when when it's at the end, some people just want to root for the team that's going to win. That might have been the case. I think in the governor's race, they're just thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna whether I'm gonna go for Hilton or I'm gonna go for Becerra or I'm gonna go for Steyer," just because they knew that one of those guys was going to be the winner, and they didn't feel like they want to waste their vote on somebody else further down that ticket. I think same thing for I think in a way my race. Alan was out there. He was on YouTube, Instagram, X, um, every day because of that money machine. He had 1.5 million working for him. And so it was a perverted amount of money. And I think Stephen Sherrill got less because maybe they thought there was less of a competition there. But because Alan had to go against Natalie, and I think Mayor Lurie really didn't want Natalie because in some ways that meant that it gives a little power to Aaron Peskin. I don't know what it is, but he really doesn't like Aaron Peskin. So he put all that money and his friends' money into really knocking down Natalie. I virtually got any hits, and maybe that's a saying now as a like this is that I wasn't enough of a threat that they had to throw any missiles my way. They threw all the missiles at Natalie. So, so looking at how they spend their money, if they just, I guess, if anyone else is going to run it, if they're throwing missiles at you, you're doing a good job. That means you've caught them and they're scared of you. And I think that's a lesson I learned this time too. But it's disappointing, to have lost, and especially to have lost by that much. I really thought that I was, the better candidate to represent the Sunset. I thoroughly would have fought for this neighborhood, and I thoroughly would have fought for this city. As a native, I love this town and I love my neighborhood. I've been there almost 50 years, but apparently that was not enough. You need the money. And the hard part for me is, as a businessman, I'm not used to necessarily working on the nonprofit side. I'm not used to asking people for money. It's for me, it's still, even though I've done it for 6 months now, it's tough. It's unnatural for me to just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, can you give me $500?" You know, it's uncomfortable for me. So um it's only because I'm just honest to who I am. I want to work. I want to do the job, but I'm not used to people handing me out money. But I in this field, that's what you have to do. So I think I'm just gonna have to kick myself and get better at it. As far as the experience, man, what a ride. I got out there in the city. I met so many people that I never would have met otherwise. I've created networks. I've created lots of friendships. People recognize me on the street now, so I'm not going to waste that star power either. I'm going to try to do everything I can to keep Alan in check. As far as running again, I have registered to run again, but I haven't decided if I'm exactly, if I'm going to run really hard this time. I'm just going to see. First of all, I want to make sure that I work on the Great Highway campaign and get all the signatures, get us over that finish line first thing. That's my first priority. And then second, I'm going to see what Alan does. And if he face plants, I want to be there. I want to be there to show that there's still a choice out there. So Heather Davies, she was trying to run, and God bless you, like you did the fight, you wanted to come in at the last minute. It would have been great to have you on board, but now it's just me, Alan, and Jeremy Greco. So yeah, that's that's the situation right now. Thanks.
And the real Mary Eliza has a question.
Okay. Hi,
Real
Albert.
Maria Eliza, please stand up.
Hi, Albert. So glad to see you here. I just have a kind of a rhetorical question for you. What do you think the odds are that Lori and Wang will support the Great Highway reopening, since they both campaigned on doing that? And they kind of won in your district because they campaigned on reopening the Great Highway. What do you think the odds are that they will support that particular issue once we hopefully get the signatures?
So
Well, you don't have to answer that.
no, I'm happy to answer it. I think they're not going to help. Daniel Lurie is going to stay away from it because he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He he supported it when he was a candidate for mayor, but now that he's mayor, and the Great Highway is closed, the uh, the people that are his friends want to develop that oceanfront property, and so I think he's going to just stay silent and not say a word. As far as Alan's concerned, I talked to him today because I actually did. Me and my campaign group actually worked hard for the last couple of days to get a bill together for him to put on the ballot to introduce the Great Highway bill ballot measure. We even got 4 supervisors to sign on.
Wow.
I got we got s- we got well, Alan, of course. If he had Cheyenne Chen, we had Connie Chan, we had Shaman Walton, and yes, we probably would have gotten Stephen Sherrill as well, to sign on. And we said, please introduce this bill. These people would put pen to paper, and he scoffed that there wasn't enough time, and he thought that I was trying to set him up for failure, and that I would use it to make fun of him.
But
And
he's the one who said
and
he was going to
so
support it.
and I told him, I said, if this happens and you do it, I'll give you all the credit. You can take it. It doesn't matter. It's not about me. It's about the neighborhood. It's about what the people really want. And you can get all the, I don't care. I'll get right behind you and thank you for it myself in front of the press. But he thought I was trying to set him up so that like the last time he did it, he couldn't get the signatures. And so we did kind of give him crap for it, but it was of his own making. He failed that, and a lot of people were mad at him. This time we're trying to do all the homework for him, get everybody lined up, ready to put their pen to paper, and he wouldn't do it. And so then we said, okay, if you won't do it, at least support us, you know, for the signature gathering. And he told me, well, you can put your name on it. You can put my name on it, like in a very kind of flippant sort of way. So
Wow.
I feel no heart in
So
him
let's go next to
for
George.
that.
Yeah. Hi, Albert. It's so nice to see
Hi,
you.
George. How are
I'm
you?
uh I'm not sorry what happened. You fought a good fight and you did really well. Um, what I'm really sorry about is I've known Alan for a long, long time. He worked at Katie Tang's office as a LA, and then he came to me and said he wanted to run for City College. And I
Hmm.
donated to him heavily, and he won. And then he wanted to win, he won again, and I came back and helped him. And unfortunately, then the mayor put him into your seat, which I think he had really no business being appointed to. And actually, I thought it was probably going to be you. So I was so
Me too.
surprised when, he kind of came back from the dead, really. And, you would have been great in that spot. And I think what happens with you and candidates like Lori, the people really need candidates like you guys to represent the people. Because what everybody's saying tonight is the people supposedly representing us don't represent us at all. They represent the mayor. The people that
Yep.
are paying all the taxes are the ones not getting represented by city government. And I'm certain you would have been a great representative. That's all I have to say. I'm happy for you, and I'm so glad you had the gumption to run. Takes a lot of guts.
Thank
And next we'll
you,
go to
George. And
Lisa.
I could just say that I was approached with the money. I was approached by IE people, particularly Grow SF, and they would have offered me, what they gave to Alan. It was like into a tune of $250,000 or more. And I did not take it because I did not want that to cloud my loyalties to who I really should be focusing on. And I think because of that, I did lose because I didn't have the money. But I don't think I changed a
Well,
thing.
once you take the money, you're part of the machine, and you're not representing the people again. You can't be yourself.
Hmm.
Oh,
So let's go next to Lisa.
Yeah. So, hi, Albert. How you doing?
Hello, old friend.
Uh, I have, I guess, some questions about campaign strategies. So it seemed like, I mean, clearly the anybody but Wong strategy didn't, you know, bear out as a winning strategy, or, the he's backed by billionaires. How did those strategies develop, and what did you learn from that, and what would you do differently in this next race? Like, where did the anybody but Wong strategy come from? Who came up with that?
That came to me from, David Lee said that, Natalie, Natalie said that. I never personally said that, but they when I saw Alan take on all that independent expenditure and super PAC money, I started to feel the same way. And I could see that he was parroting everything that Daniel Lurie was espousing on his podium. So especially at the forums and debates that we had, his opinions were exactly like the mayor's. So we did that to try to neutralize the money. We wanted to expose the amount of influence that was being peddled and how much he was actually working on Alan to do the bidding of the mayor. I just think that the message didn't get out there enough, and I think that comes down to distraction. People are busy. People are working really hard in this town to afford this town, and so they sometimes will just make those voting decisions very much at the last second, and they will take whatever comes in their ear from their media that just whispers in them, and so the name's stuck. And I think that's really what happened. If you like, I think a lot of you here know. I mean, if you guys took the time to know me or Natalie or Alan or David and Jeremy, you would see. I don't think you would. I mean, whether you picked me or not, I don't think you would have picked Alan. He's got some quirks, but I'm not sure. Lisa, for this next bout, I'd still be thinking about what I would do. I'm not sure yet, because that one, neutralizing the money didn't work. Calling out, his being bought didn't work. I think that with the limited amount of money that we do have to spend, I think that probably if I had to think about it as at least a factor, I would probably blow all of our campaign towards the end of the campaign, right when people are starting to stick their heads up and actually pay attention towards that last 3-4 weeks, and that's it. I don't think that like the early on campaign stuff was as effective, at least in spending your money. I think I would probably do more free media and just getting out there and doing the work, and maybe work the press as much as I can to get the free word out there, and then really spend the money as a variant.
Jean Barish, you have the next question.
Thank you.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Albert. It's great to see you. I'm a big fan. I've been hearing so much lately about how money is really the most important factor in this process. And I may be an outlier, but I don't believe it. I'll date myself. I'm a kid of the 60s. I was at Berkeley in the 60s. I was involved with the free speech movement. And we battled the University of California, who had much deeper pockets than the students did. And we won because we had boots on the ground, because we mobilized people, and because eventually we were able to succeed. And if you look at other, events that took place in the 60s, it was all people power. It was the anti-war movement. It was the women's movement. It was the Southern Civil Rights movement. They were battling gigantic institutions, and they won. If we get enough boots on the ground, if we get enough people on the streets, and by the way, look at the Joel Engardio campaign, the recall campaign. You guys won that in the sunset with boots on the ground. They had a lot more money than you did. And nevertheless, you were able to defeat them. So I think I'd like to suggest that we don't get defeated by all the deep pockets that are trying to bring us down. We have more votes. They're a small number of people. And if we can figure out how to organize and mobilize, I think we have a really good shot. That's it.
Gene, I don't disagree with you. We did do a resounding victory on the recall. 21,000 people came out to vote. It was a very good showing for a special election that involved only one district. 21,000 people. So that's like 33% of the registered voters in the Sunset came out. This time, 13,000 people came out to vote. We lost 8,000 somewhere in that process. And maybe somewhere in that 8,000, I would have had a victory. But we really tried pushing the message. We were really counting on and playing on the same strategies of getting people out to vote, just like during the recall. But I think it's what you allude to, Gene, during the 60s, there was a war, there was a draft, there was huge injustices going on in this country. And I think people were rightly angry and rightly scared. I just don't think that was enough to get these people out to vote this time. Is what I can read, because 8,000 didn't show up.
Things ain't getting any better, so maybe they'll start getting as scared as they did
No,
then.
I don't think so. I think yours, it was like really big in your face. Here, it feels more like it's a death by 1,000 cuts. And so people don't feel it just yet until like later after they voted the other way and then realize, oh, wait, why is this happening to us? Why did we just lose this? Or why is this new law coming in? Maybe that's when the anger starts. I don't know.
I understand how he feels about taking money. I had the same problem and wound up financing my own campaigns. But he sounds like a wonderful guy, and I hope he stays active and in the picture.
Thank you.
And he will. Thank you very much.
Deborah?
Yes?
Deborah, I have a question for Albert.
Okay, go ahead, Lynette. Oh, excuse me, Eileen. It's Eileen.
Hey, Eileen.
Hi, Albert. Basically, the Great Highway is still an important issue. Adding to that, there's the emergency firefighting water system that we've been trying for like 15, 16 years. We have no coverage in District 4. Is this something that you think could be part of your campaign for November?
Yes, most certainly. I didn't expand on that. Maybe I should expand a little bit more. I know Prop A1 that got us 130 million. It's not nearly enough. I think we need somewhere like 4 or 5 times that amount. I want to keep my issues laser focused that money doesn't go sideways and get slushed into something else. And then, like pursue for maybe other bond measures or other sources of funding to make sure that the AWSS does happen on the west side. So that's really what I'd like to do.
Well, thank you, Albert. And now our next speaker is going to be J.R. Epler.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank Deborah for inviting me out tonight, and I certainly want to thank Lori and Albert for running in very difficult races. Having to face an appointed incumbent at a midterm is one very fast race, and I think you both ran it very well against very strong headwinds. I would have loved if you could have had more of a heads up race, in a fuller turnout election like Albert may see in November, when the folks that come out, there are more folks that come out, and more opportunities to capture votes from a more diverse voting population. I'm running in District 10. District 10 is a little bit different than D4 and D2. We're a very large area. A lot of folks feel overlooked. A lot of people feel disenfranchised with city government, and we have a completely open seat. And as always in District 10, we have a bunch of candidates who have filed paperwork to qualify for the ballot. We have 3 candidates that are kind of the main candidates, and they run across the various parts of the various poles of the San Francisco political spectrum. If you pick whatever you want to set your polls are as the San Francisco political spectrum. You can map one candidate to one poll, one candidate to the other. And as the community candidate, I'm running more through that middle lane, the community lane, the lane that works well with folks that want to do well for the district, the lane that works well with neighbors. Everything that Albert and Lori have said about the fundraising, definitely applies in our race. It is tricky. It is harder coming from the neighborhood lane. If you don't come from, the professional politician side, particularly those more affiliated with billionaires, or you don't inherit a political infrastructure and you start to build your own from scratch, it is a little bit slower going. But I do think that the people power will definitely be determinative in District 10, a candidate that the people believe will actually work not for their own benefit or not for their next office, but on the issues of bettering the lives of District 10 residents. And, that's the message that we're running with in my campaign. It's going to be interesting. It's still forming because there are three main candidates. I think that ranked choice strategy is ultimately going to become an important issue. We'll see how that shakes out as things move forward. But it should be a lot of fun. And, I agree wholly with Albert and Lori about what the best parts of this are so far. It's been going out, meeting with people, learning about issues, and trying to solve problems. I've stepped out of a community meeting right now to be with you all, working on figuring out how we replace this bridge across Islayas Creek. That's one of the few ways to get in and out of the Bayview district. And how do you replace that in a responsible way without cutting off the community for a prolonged period of time? Because I want to get back to that, I don't want to go on at length myself, but I would love to hear any questions that you all have.
And please raise your hand if you have any questions. Mary Eliza. Oh, you're muted.
Hi, JR. Good to see you again. Looking forward to seeing more of you soon. I believe that my basic questions are, how do you feel the neighborhood, are they united in their issues over, I'm going to say, the grocery store closings, and basically the food desert situation that is in large parts, I think most of your district, I just can't think of many grocery stores in District 10, and how they feel about that, and if they're united in their efforts to deal with that. And then the other thing, of course, is the transportation, which is pretty difficult. And the combination of them closing that bridge and cutting off the T line at the same time that they're starting to ticket people heavily for parking just seems to be like they want to capture everybody in their neighborhood and not let them get out or whatever. It just seems very concerning. Is your neighborhood, as far as you feel, fairly connected in their response to those two issues, or are they arguing over it? Is my question.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Yeah, thank you, Mary Eliza, for the question. I will start with the issues of the district. And it's interesting because each of the major areas of the district, Visitation Valley, Bayview Hunters Point, Potrero Hill Dogpatch, all have a history of being residential villages or enclaves surrounded by moats of industry that were disconnected from the rest of the city. And so they share that common heritage and the problems that come from it. Where they differ is how far along they are in remediating those issues and being back on the map, tourist map, whatever map you want to call it, of the city and county of San Francisco. Potrero Hill and Dogpatch are about 15 years ahead. Things are going to move gradually down south. So it's the same sets of issues. It's just different nuances in the ways that you need to address them. With respect to the grocery store issue, it's interesting. We have numerous, small groceries throughout the district that meet a large variety of needs for the district. What we are missing are those large, comprehensive, fresh fruit and vegetable, large selection grocery stores that other parts of the city have. Each neighborhood, Dogpatch, Bayview, Hunters Point, Visitation Valley would like to have better access to that sort of shopping area. The issues are around having the space, having the population to support it. And, it's something I'm talking to neighbors about, how we navigate those issues, making sure it has the adequate level of parking and access that a grocery store needs. There are some plans, and I know that today there were announced some plans that may help address those issues, whether it's with grocery stores or with pharmacies, to provide more incentives for them not to move in the first place, but where they have been and moved out, for those sorts of uses to come back. And we have those sorts of spaces in the district, but it is something that is a unifying feature. Now, with respect to connectivity, because of the water on one side, because of the freeway on the other, we are cut off in a lot of ways and only have a few streets that work on the way in and on the way out. And so part of getting better connectivity is better utilizing the resources that we have, turning the bridge closure into perhaps an opportunity to improve the T south of Vislayas Creek in order to make it faster so that more people can use it, and looking at other ways of making transit more frequent, faster, and providing other alternatives so that people are not as reliant on their cars as they currently are in the district. The city's gone, I think it's not just in Bayview where they're doing a lot of ticketing. It's been a big push by the city, but it is concerning that they are attacking a lower income area where car dependency is so important and there aren't enough spaces to put cars generally.
Thank you.
And
And good luck. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Lynette has the next question.
Thank you. And I want to thank all the candidates for running. You guys are all really great candidates. And I think it's unfortunate that you had to go against all this big money. So I did put a question in the chat about, do you support, because we have to find some sort of solution against this fight against all these developers and big money. Do you support campaign spending limits as well as perhaps a city and county funded campaign type of restrictions and city funded campaign, candidate funded city, how the cities can or the counties can fund these candidates. And then there's a special budget and limit. And I think you understand what I'm trying to ask, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly do support that. I mean, unfortunately, the Supreme Court of the United States has said that money is speech, and that corporations are individuals that have speech rights. And even if candidates abide by these limits, other entities outside of the candidate pool have the full ability to independently speak on politics. And that's really the loophole that's been exploited so well in District 2 and in District 4, and, is possibly going to be used in District 10 as well. And so, it's campaign finance reform has long been an issue of interest to me. And unfortunately, right now we have a Supreme Court that says money talks.
Yeah, the PACs have the right to do whatever they want, as long as they don't act in collusion with the candidate. But if I had $1 billion, I could spend 10 million saying you three were the best candidates, but I don't have that kind of money, unfortunately. And Jean Barish, you're next.
Yeah, I nice to hear from you. I think Hunters Point Bayview is part of your district. Am I correct about that?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
I've been following the dispute or the controversy about the land at the Hunters Point Bayview Naval Shipyard, which is, heavily polluted and considered a Superfund site. And right now, I guess nothing's being done, but there's a chance that if enough people, it's a battle right now. I wondered if you had a position on that issue, and if so, what it is.
Sure. Cleanup needs to be completed. And right now, there is cleanup going on. There are old facilities that are being dismantled, and the site needs to be brought to a productive use. Whether that can be commercial or livable depends on the degree of cleanup that we can achieve, and there needs to be full accountability and transparency into what the cleanup shows and what the base levels of pollution at the end of this are. But the pollution issue isn't just at the shipyard in this district. The pollution issue exists throughout the district, where we have old industrial uses, along with the dumping of hydrocarbons and heavy metals and other pollutants that may be just okay right now, but when we do develop and we do change, will be disturbed. And so ensuring that we have transparency in the remediation of that, and that we use the opportunity of remediation as an economic engine for the district, are important things for us to make sure occur.
We have one last speaker for the evening, a last minute addition. John Crabtree is going to speak to us about these outrageous proposed ballot increase, the arguments we put in the ballot. CSFN paid for 2. They want to, well, go ahead, take it away, John.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, real quick, actually, and I'm going to drop a link in the chat to an essay I wrote about this yesterday. So tomorrow at the Budget and Appropriations Committee at the Board of Supervisors, there's 2 agenda items, number 6 and number 7. These are proposals that came out of the mayor's office and the Department of Elections to increase the fees that people pay to place a ballot argument in the voter information pamphlet, regarding ballot measures, et cetera. It's over 4 years. It would be a 400% increase in the fees charged. Both the submission or filing fee and the per word fee would both be increased by 400%. Just to give people a context, the last ballot argument that I put on the ballot was for the June ballot. It was no on Prop A. And actually, I think there's at least one other person on this call who had also had a ballot argument. Mine cost $548. Under the proposed changes, in 4 years from now, that same exact ballot argument, same number of words, would cost $2,740. In the first year, it would double, right? So it's a 100% increase in the first year, and then the same increase repeated 3 times over 4 years. There's a second ordinance which also removes the publication of legal text on ballot measures in the voter information pamphlet, so that basically that legal text of what the ballot measure actually legally says would not be published in the voter information pamphlet, would be available theoretically online, so people could download it. But again, apparently the Board of Supervisors doesn't realize that an online that posting something on a website does not equal, it does not have the same democratic value as a published paper voter information pamphlet that's sent to every single voter. So that's the second ordinance, to remove the legal text, the ballot measure legal text from the voter information pamphlet. That ordinance would also allow the Department of Elections to determine the format of the voter information pamphlet without approval by the Ballot Simplification Committee. So essentially streamlining right through the Ballot Simplification Committee, which is a citizen appointed a group of citizens, journalists, educators, et cetera, who monitor the language, try to make it understandable to people, all of that. This would run sort of roughshod right over that, put the Department of Elections in charge of the format without approval by the committee. And then, of course, the other ordinance, the first one, is the one that has the 400% increases in fees. No, it won't be. It'll be voted on in the Budget Committee tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors. Then it would go, if it's approved there, would go to the full Board of Supervisors. If they approve it, one ordinance would take effect next month. The others would kick in over a period of years, the fee increases. Just to put this into context, you already talked about what a sort of an example ballot argument would increase from $500 to $2,700. But the other thing to put into context here is the savings that theoretically this gets to. The fee increase, the 400% increases, would result in a savings of about $300,000 per year, but that would take 4 years and a 400% increase. This year wouldn't save a dollar. Next year would save maybe $75,000. And that's if this doesn't do what it's supposed to do, which is silence voices of dissent. That's the intention. So anyway, $300,000 at the maximum end, $75,000 next year. The other one, the removal of the legal text, would save about $66,000. Just not enough to even make it worth it. We're talking about tiny little amounts of money in a $15.9 billion budget. We're talking about tens of thousands, in one case, few $100,000. This is not about saving money. This is about silencing people's voices. This is about making sure that there are no dissenting voices on the ballot. Lori said, talked during her segment about how, City Hall just wants to shut down the voices of people. This is a particularly perfect example. Just one quick update more, and then I'm done. There's a little bit of movement. There's a few of us that have been, we only found out about this last week. It's coming very fast. The 30-day rule was waived by President Mandelman, so this was introduced essentially June 1st. On Friday, we found out it's coming to hearing tomorrow. This has been extremely fast. I don't know what the rush is, other than they want to get it in without anybody noticing. Because again, it's not about saving money; it's about silencing people. It's anti-democratic. So, little bit of movement. Supervisor Chan is the chair of the budget committee. She's has moved to a place where she's inclined to at least not support the increases in the out years, so that say, okay, fine, DOE, jack up the costs this year, but if you want another increase next year, if you want the second 100% and the third 100% and the fourth 100%, you got to come back every year and you got to ask for it, providing another bite at the apple for people to stop it. So some movement there. It's encouraging. It's not everything, but it's not nothing. I think Connie's a thoughtful legislator and a thoughtful leader. She's doing her best. So this hearing is going to be tomorrow. Encourage people to come on down if you want, plug in and watch if you want, make comment. Even if this passes out of the committee, it will then need to go to the full board. So there's still opportunity to register opposition to it. Anybody else have, and then was there any questions?
Mary Harris, you're the first question.
I didn't really have a question. I'm just sort of outraged. I just want to say, there's 18 people on this. These 18 people know about it. None of my members are going to know about it. My newsletter has gone out and it's not going out till our next meeting, so they won't know about it. So, this is outrageous, and it's not democratic. It's not anything. I'm just so outraged by it.
I
because
absolutely concur.
And then having less I always print out all this stuff so that I can truly understand the effects, what the budget person says it's going to cost, what the legislative aspect is, and everything, so I can truly understand what I'm voting on. And if you take out half of that, this is, I don't know. Do we know when it'll go to the full board? Because I can't do it tomorrow. That's too short a notice of a doctor appointment, other appointments. Definitely I can't go down tomorrow. When would it go to the full board?
It will probably be to the full board yet this month. So could be next week or the week after.
Okay.
They want to have this in the same timeline as the budget, by the way. They want to have this done and in place by July 1st. The first part of it would take effect by July 31st. But Mary, your outrage is shared, and I feel your pain. I had this. I didn't find out about this until Friday. We've been talking to everybody possible that we can. Thank goodness that Deborah and the CSFN folks had this call, and she allowed me to come in and mention this, because at least we get the word out to the folks on the call. But you're absolutely right. And by the way, this will not be the last bite at the apple. There will be a hearing. There will be action at the full board of supervisors. We should avail ourselves of that as well. And I'll make sure to share information with as many people as possible.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And by the way, this is exactly why Mandelman, waived the 30-day rule. I mean, normally they would have to wait 30 days and allow people to discuss it and find out about it and study it and comment on it and all that stuff. This is why he waived the rule, because they want to bring this in, in the dark of night, slam it through, get it, because the whole point is it's about silencing people. So why not silence them in the process of getting it passed?
Wow.
So thank you. Sorry, Deborah, you were going to say something. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I share Mary's outrage, and that's why I was glad John asked me to let him speak, because we need to get the word out. And Heather, you have the next question.
What time did you say the budget meeting is?
10:05. I typed that in the chat, Heather, and I didn't hit send. Sorry. Yeah, 10:05 in the legislative chambers, room 250.
And Jean Barish, you're next.
Yeah, John, I saw your email and I just took a look at it. And like everybody else, it's a pretty outrageous proposition. It's clearly taking, control away from the voters and putting it in the hands of a few people. But
there are two committees. One is the Budget and Finance Committee, and the other is the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Now, I the same as Jean, I went to the Budget and Finance Committee agenda. I do it every week and didn't see this. I went and tried to find the Budget and Appropriations Committee agenda, but there wasn't any. So I am assuming it was canceled because it doesn't always meet. If you bring up the Budget and Appropriations, not Budget and Finance, they're two separate committees. Yes, Budget and Appropriations, it's right there. And thank you for bringing it to our attention, because I did not see it for that reason. And I didn't even see, as of 5 o'clock on Friday, at least for me, Budget and Appropriations was not there. So it's 6 and 7. Look at the top. It's Budget and Appropriations.
Yeah, but are other people going to know that? No, they're going to look at Budget and Finance. And this is another on purpose thing.
Yeah, because they're basically, they could have done it through Budget and Finance.
Exactly.
Because Budget and Appropriations does not always meet. And if you, like I said, I checked, because sometimes they do meet and sometimes they don't. Yeah, it's being put in, other than a way it could have been put in. So yeah. So John, yeah, you're right, but they're two different committees.
Yep, that's absolutely. Thank you for teasing that out, and I'm sure Jean appreciates it too.
And also, I just wanted to know, once something has been heard in committee at the full board, there is no public comment on that item. So it's either at the committee meeting or you can put written comment in, but if verbal comment is only at the committee, a standing committee. So tomorrow is kind of it in terms of verbal comments. This is very odd the way this is being handled.
It's extremely odd.